Welcome to La Vida Rosa. I'm your host Pinky, and as you can see from the title, I will be discussing living single versus friends. So if you'd like to see more, then just stay tuned. But don't forget to check out my website, La Vida Rosa Style, where you can find cute earrings like the ones I'm wearing right now and more. So the link is down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into this video. So let's just start with David Schwimmer, because he really riled all of this whirlwind up of being drugged up and down Twitter because of some of the comments that he made. And you know, I thought it would be appropriate for me to go ahead and make this video because I felt like this for a while now, but now that it's, you know, been brought to the forefront, I'm like, why not just go ahead and make my little rant video? And I wrote down a few things that I want to discuss, so let's just do that. So first of all, David Schwimmer, he did an interview recently, and in case you don't know who that is, he plays Ross from the show Friends, and I'm probably gonna be calling him Ross for the rest of this video because that's who he is to me. He knew the show Friends was very lacking in diversity, and when I say lacking, I mean you could probably count out of the 10 seasons that show was on the air, you could probably count on one, maybe two hands how many black people were on that show, let alone any other minorities. I mean, it was really lacking in that department, right? So he said he pushed to have women of color as his girlfriend. He had a black girlfriend. I believe her name is Aisha Tyler. I remember that specifically because I was shocked to see a black woman on there. And then two, he dated an Asian girl, and I don't know her name, I apologize. He said he pushed for that because he felt the show needed a little diversity. It kind of says a little bit about the rest of the cast. They didn't push for that, but you know, I'm gonna leave that right where it is. Maybe they just didn't want to push the boundaries because they didn't want to lose their job. I don't know, but it just, to me, it says a lot that he was the only one that cared about diversity, but they were able to band together to get paid all that millions and millions of dollars for each episode. But I'm gonna get to that too. And then he had the nerve, the gall, the audacity to say that he would like to see a reboot of Friends with an all-black cast or an all-Asian cast. And an all-Asian cast probably would be groundbreaking, not gonna lie. But the all-black cast already existed. Oh yes, because guess what? Friends is a reboot, an all-white reboot of Living Single. You don't believe me? Living Single premiered August 22nd, 1993. Friends premiered September 22nd, 1994, almost exactly a year later. I'm gonna go ahead and let Queen Latifah tell you why it is that Friends even exists.
Living Single was a jumping off point for another huge sitcom on NBC, right?
Yes, Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because when Living Single came out, shortly thereafter, Warren Littlefield, who was president of NBC, they asked him if he could have any show on television, any of the new shows, which one would it be? And he said Living Single. It was in the newspaper. And the next thing you know, here comes Friends, which was an amazing show. And they did a great job with it. So, I mean, if you're going to rock it, that's the way to do it.
Sure, but I know what you mean. It was six people sharing apartments.
Yep, in the city. Dating life and life.
So with that being said, the whole concept of Living Single is single friends living in New York. The concept of Friends is single friends living in New York. A black set of friends and a white set of friends. Now, Friends fans, you might not like what you're hearing, and you might even say you like Friends better than Living Single, although you can't say that if you've never watched Living Single. I mean, give it a try. It's really awesome. And honestly, if you felt like you've been lied to all these years, I felt the same way about Pocahontas. One of these days, I'm going to do a rant video about Pocahontas because that literally tore me up to find out the true story instead of the Disney version. But I'm getting off track. Now, if NBC would have pulled this stunt in 2020, you know, a black popular show comes out and then they create a white version, I doubt social media would not have ripped that show apart. I don't even know if Friends would be where it is today had it come out these days, because social media really does play a huge part on how people receive things these days is crazy. And as well as they should, because Friends is the total ripoff and copycat. Let's just be honest. It's a ripoff. It's a ripoff of the original, which is Living Single. Now I have to be honest, Living Single is one of my favorite shows of all time. I have like top five favorites, and this is in no particular order: Martin, Fresh Prince, Living Single, A Different World, Girlfriends. It's no surprise that those are black sitcoms because those are my favorite like genre TV show. I love those, and those are timeless. I've watched them growing up. I also watched them as adults, and they're still funny to this day. Living Single is no different. What I really love about Living Single is that the characters were really authentic and relatable. That there were people from various walks of life. I mean, you had Kyle that was a stockbroker, Max that was a lawyer, Regine that was a fashion buyer, you had Khadija who was a magazine owner, you had Overton that was the handyman of the building, and you had Sinclair who she started off as a secretary but she ended up pursuing a career in acting. Like totally different walks of life. You would think lawyers and stockbrokers would not socialize with, you know, handymen. Not saying that they're better, but some of them do feel like they're better. But these people, regardless of their different levels of education and salary, income, things like that, effortlessly mingle together because they had one equalizer, and that's that they were single and they were friends. And these were black people successful in their own right, and they weren't your stereotypical black characters that have been featured in the past. They were very different and gave you a different perspective of how different black people can be. We're not a monolith, and I feel like this show showed that. And also what I like about the characters of this show is that they were very nuanced. They were not one-dimensional. They were not one note. When you first meet them, you feel like they're one thing, but as you got to know them, you saw that there was more to them, and you really couldn't judge a book by its cover. I'm going to take Regine, for example, who is a fashion buyer, and you know, when you first meet her, she comes off as a gold digger. She's very invested in hypergamy, and she wants to find a rich man to marry in order to become a part of the rich elite in New York. But as the show goes on, you get to know Regine better. You get to explore her insecurities. I remember clearly this episode where she had a breast reduction, and that really was a shot to her confidence because she felt like her boobs was something that made her attractive. And just to watch her explore that and, you know, find that it really doesn't matter about her outside. What matters is her personality. And like I mentioned before, she was very superficial and like a gold digger, only really cared about looks and whether the man had money. As the seasons went on, she realized that looks and money really doesn't matter if the man doesn't really love you, he doesn't really care about you. And she was just feeling very empty from those relationships, and she ended up dating an overweight man with a very regular job. I believe he was like the equivalent of a UPS worker, which nothing wrong with that at all, but that is totally out of her lane if you think about her character. As time goes on, you get to explore deeper into their personalities. I also wanted to mention how awesome all of the actors were portraying these characters, because they really made you believe what they were acting out. I mean, it is a TV show, but I mean, you really feel what they are going through. The show came out in '93. Obviously, I wasn't watching it when it first aired, but I did watch the reruns as I was growing up, and when I got older, I like rewatched everything, and everything was still as hilarious as I thought it was when I was younger. In fact, I got the jokes and stuff better because, you know, I can actually relate to a lot of things they were saying. But I actually never really gave Friends a chance until maybe like a couple of years ago. I was really bored, and I saw that it was on Friends, and my cousin had been telling me, you need to watch it, you need to watch it. So I actually gave it a chance. And I can't lie, I was entertained, and I did have a few laughs. It was something that, you know, really I was interested in at the time, but I immediately noticed the similarities to Living Single. I felt like all of the characters on Friends mirrored a character on Living Single. And I even told my cousin, I was like, this is basically the white Living Single. I promise I said those words, not even thinking to look up the history behind these two shows. I had no idea that Friends like ripped off Living Single. It just, when I was watching it, it was so familiar to me because I had already seen Living Single before. And so it's one of those shows that I would keep in the background. I didn't really have to pay, you know, too much attention because it's a sitcom. And sitcoms, you can just laugh with them. You could just have them playing. And I did get through all 10 seasons because, you know, it's easy to get through 10 seasons when you have it just playing, you know, in the background. And also the stories, like I said, the stories and the concept was already very familiar. So just to reiterate what Queen Latifah said, the NBC owner wanted Living Single for his own, couldn't get it, so he created his own copycat show, Friends, which basically stole the recipe from Living Single. They might have tweaked a few things, but it's basically the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all the characters that I feel mirror each other the most. So let's take Sinclair and Phoebe. Both of them were aspiring creators / in the arts. Sinclair became an actress and Phoebe was a singer. Not the best singer, but she, you know, that was her thing. She liked to sing. Both of them were a little ditzy and a little bit offbeat, a little bit eccentric, a little bit off, but they were also very lovable characters that we really cared about. I would say fan favorites. Both of them had their little catchphrase or something they were really known for. So Sinclair, hers was like, woo, 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 woo. And Phoebe's was her song, smelly guy, what are they feeding you? I think the way they switched up Phoebe is she's like the more edgy version of Sinclair. Sinclair was more so bunnies and puppies and happy-go-lucky. And Phoebe, she grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, so she was a little bit, it's like she'll cut you. But in essence, they really were very similar. So next I'm going to talk about Overton and Joey. I think Joey took a little bit from Sinclair's character too because he wanted to be an actor and he's also a little bit loopy. But I feel like he mirrors Overton the most because they're not the smartest people. They're like the muscle. Like Overton is always there to like help fix something in the women's apartment. He stayed right upstairs, similar to Joey. Joey stayed right across the hall. And Joey was just like the muscle. Like if you need Joey to beat somebody up or come, you know, be a strong man, that's what he's for. The next comparison is Khadija and Monica. Both of them were very, very competitive and aggressive. When it comes to sports, both of them are super, super duper competitive and don't want nobody else to win. They both have jobs that require entrepreneurship. Khadija is a magazine publisher and she started this magazine on her own and she's the head of it and she's the boss and, you know, she runs everything. And Monica is a chef and that requires entrepreneurship too because she would, you know, make things for her friends and also make things and cater things. I would say both of them are leaders of their group. You know, when they put their foot down, it's probably all that's gonna be said and done, you know, bring everybody together type of personality. But the difference between Khadija and Monica is what I most love about Khadija is that they gave Monica this struggle with her weight. Like she was overweight as a child and now she wants to do everything she can to avoid gaining weight. She's very insecure about that. But they never, I love that Khadija's character did not have that. So Khadija wasn't like a size 2, but she still looked amazing. Like she still was pretty, she still got the guys, and she was never insecure about being a little bit bigger than the rest of her friends. And I really appreciated that they didn't add that to her character because she had all the confidence. Now this comparison is going to be a little wild, but follow me. Max and Ross. When I was matching up everyone and trying to see who mirrored who, I was drawing a blank at first with Ross because I'm like, who else? There's no other guy. There's no other person that Ross could have possibly, you know, mirrored. And then when you actually put him up against Max, both are the most academically achieved amongst their peers. Both had career changes. Max went from a lawyer at a firm to a public defender and she eventually ran for office. Ross went from a paleontologist to a professor. Both of them had toxic relationships with their exes that pretty much scarred them moving forward. For Ross, his wife turned out to be a lesbian. and they divorced. And for Max, her ex-boyfriend actually left her and they ended on a really bad note, and it really had a huge effect on her in like the first couple of seasons. And then both of them go into relationships and break up to make up. Break up to make up. Break up to make up. Ross and Rachel stayed. You don't know, will they, won't they? And the same thing with Max and Kyle. The next characters are Regine and Rachel. So both of these characters are buyers for boutiques. You know, Rachel's might be a little bit more upscale, but they still have like the same kind of job. Both care about themselves and are pretty selfish, pampered little princesses. I mean, they come from very different backgrounds. Rachel actually came from money. I believe her dad was this doctor with a lot of money. Regine didn't come from money at all by any means, but she still carried herself as though she had been. You would think she came from like the creme de la creme, the way she carried herself. And she was gonna find a man that could help her get to that point. They also have this recurring theme of looking for a man and just constantly wanting somebody. Okay, and so the last two characters is Kyle and Chandler. Both worked in corporate America and both were highly intelligent. Kyle was a stockbroker and Chandler was a statistical analyst. I had to look that up because I had no clue what he was. I never really paid attention to what exactly he did. I just knew he worked in corporate America. Both of them think they're really funny and sarcastic. Plus, they each had their own sort of midlife crisis. Kyle was really nervous about getting older. I think he was turning 30 and he was really, really nervous about that. As well as Chandler, he had sort of a midlife crisis about his job and just switching careers. And I think Joey, in a lot of ways, is like Kyle as well, because they were both like players and kept women coming in through like a revolving door. Like the show Living Single, the Friends characters spent most of the time in the apartments shared by the roommates. Khadija, Regine, and Sinclair had an apartment, and that's where most of all the action happened. Kyle and Overton, they stayed upstairs, but they were often in that apartment. Very similarly, eerily similar, Monica and Rachel shared an apartment. Chandler and Joey lived right across the hall, and all of the friends would just gather together in Monica's apartment all the time. That was the main place where they did things. Both apartments that had roommates, they had people living there that were close childhood friends. Khadija was close childhood friends with Regine. And Rachel and Monica, they were childhood friends as well. And both shows had family members in the friend group. Khadija is cousins with Sinclair, and obviously Ross and Monica are brother and sister. Both shows had characters that fell in love with each other, and over the seasons you saw their love grow more and more. They stayed together and eventually got married. So for Living Single, that was Overton and Sinclair. For Friends, that was Monica and Chandler. And there are so many more similarities. It's crazy. Like, it's so clear that Friends was completely based off of Living Single, if you ask me. Also, like I mentioned before, both shows had on again, off again relationships. I mean, Kyle and Max, they were on again, off again, will they, won't they? And so was Ross and Rachel, but theirs drug on and on and on. Living Single only got 5 seasons, but Friends got 10. And so I feel like because Friends stretched out like 5 more seasons, all those storylines are wore out. And I feel they beat a dead horse with Ross and Rachel. They drug that relationship. I mean, they ended up having a baby together and wasn't even together at the time. And then on the finale, we get 2 seconds of them hugging and kissing, and boop, they're just together. It's just all good. What? I mean, something similar kind of happened with Living Single, but Living Single was only given 5 seasons and they had to wrap the show up. Kyle wasn't even on the show at the end of it. So I understand why that ended the way it did. I would love to see a reboot and them actually explore their relationship further, because I feel like it can be explored. But with Friends, all those storylines were just drug out. It was drug out so bad they could not come up with new storylines, and they actually put Rachel and Joey together. We also are owed an apology for that, because that was sick. Y'all actually put Rachel and Joey together? Really? Really? I was so over them for that. But anyway, that's a tangent. I feel like Friends characters were a little bit on the one-dimensional side. I mean, I'm not really trying to drag it, but Joey was just dumb. Period. That was Joey. He was dumb. He really didn't have much more to him. It was just dumb Joey making stupid remarks and doing stupid things. And that's why he wasn't able to sustain his own show. His show flopped because Joey, as a character, he didn't have any growth in him. I just feel like a lot of the characters on that show was one-dimensional, but Joey definitely by far only had one thing to do, and that was to be dumb. So while Friends was on the air, each cast member was paid $1 million per episode, right? And to this day, every single year, they get $20 million from Friends. To this day. To this day.
To this day. To this day.
Now, I don't know what the Living Single cast is getting paid, but we know it ain't that. I hope they're at least being taken care of. I know I see their show is syndicated and I see it on TV all the time. So hopefully they're making some money from that. And maybe because it's on Hulu, I don't know. Hopefully. I didn't really do much research into that because I just didn't want to be disappointed, I'm gonna be honest. But all I know is that the creator of this show and the cast of this show deserve better. Ross, how dare David Schwimmer say they should do a reboot with all black people when your show was a white reboot of this all black show? They deserve respect on their name and they deserve recognition for being the original. Give them their reparations, okay? Now finally, Erica Alexander, who plays Max on Living Single, she did respond to him on Twitter and let him know we are the originals, we the OGs of all this. Y'all were based off of us. I was proud of her for standing up for that because not too long ago I did see a video of John Hinton, who plays Overton on Living Single. He was on Comedy Hype and he was telling how he was mad when Friends came out because it was a ripoff.
It was like our idea, you know. So you're mad, you know, because you're not getting any credit for it. And nowadays, you know, people talk about, oh, what a great show that was, and it was like it was based on ours. You know, we don't get that type of credit. So yeah. And so that kind of bothered me.
You know what I'm saying? So, of course, that would grind anybody's gears. I made this video basically to get this off my chest because I've been thinking about this for a while. And when I did the little bit of research that I did, it wasn't hard to see that Friends is a clear copycat ripoff of Living Single. And it is what it is. I know some people are probably going to be mad about this. And maybe, hopefully, some people are enlightened and they'll go check the show out, Living Single. So if you haven't watched Living Single, go check it out. It's really hilarious. It's so funny, like I said. I feel like it's truly a classic show and it deserves more respect. So let me know what you guys think down below. I would love to hear what you have to say, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.